I enter a nightmare from which I wake repeatedly only to find a greater terror waiting for me. All the things I dread most, all the things I dread for others, manifest in such vivid detail I can't help but think they're real. Each time I wake, I think, at last, this is over. But it isn't. It's only the beginning of a new chapter of torture. How many ways do I watch Prim die, relive my father's last moments, feel my own body ripped apart? This is the nature of the Jacker's venom, so carefully created to target the place where fear lives in our brain. When I finally do come to my senses, I lie still, waiting for the next onslaught of imagery. But eventually, I accept that the poison must have finally worked its way out of my system, leaving my body racked and feeble. I am still lying on my side, locked into the fetal position. I lift my hands to my eyes to find them sound untouched by ants that never existed. Simply stretching out my limbs requires an enormous effort. So many parts of me hurt, it doesn't seem worthwhile taking inventory to them. Very, very slowly, I manage to sit up. I'm in a shallow hole, not filled with humming orange bubbles of my hallucinations, but old dead leaves. My clothing's damp, but I don't know whether it's pond water, dew, rain, or sweat of the cause. For a long time, all I can do is take tiny sips from my bottle and watch a beetle crawl up the side of a honeysuckle bush. How long I've been out. It was morning when I lost reason. Now it's afternoon, but the stiffening of my joints suggests that more than a day has passed. Even two, possibly. If so, I'll have no way of knowing which tribute survived that Jacker attempt. Not Glimmer or the girl from District 4, but there was a boy from District 1, both tributes from District 12 and Petra. Did they die from the stinger? Certainly, if they lived, their last days must have been as horrid as my own. But what about Rue? She's so small it wouldn't take much venom to do her in. But then again, the Jackers wouldn't have to catch her. She had a good head start. A foul, rotten taste pervades in my mouth, and the water has little effect on it. I drag myself over to the honeysuckle bush and pluck a flower. I gently pull the stamen through the blossom and send a drop of nectar on my tongue. The sweetness spreads to my mouth, down my throat, warming my veins in the memories of summer, and my home woods and Gail's presence beside me. For some reason, our discussion from that last morning comes back to me. We can do it, you know. What? Leave the district? Run off? Live in the woods? You and I? We could make it. And suddenly I'm not thinking of Bill, but of Petra. Petra! He saved my life, I think, because by the time we met up, I couldn't tell what was real and what the Jacker venom had caused me to imagine. But if he did, and my instincts tell me he did, what for? Is he simply working the lover boy angle he initiated at the interview, or was he actually trying to protect me? And if he was, what was he doing with those carriers in the first place? None of it makes sense. I wonder what Gail made of the incident from the moment when I pushed the whole thing out of my mind, because for some reason Gail and Petra did not coexist well together in my thoughts. So I focus on one really good thing that has happened since I landed in the arena. I have a bow and arrows. A full dozen arrows if you count the one I retrieved in the tree. They bear no trace of the notorious green slime that came from Glimmer's body, which leads me to believe that might not have been the whole holy real, but they have been a fair amount of dry blood on them. I can clean them later, but I do take a minute to shoot a few into a nearby tree. Then they are more likely the weapons in the training center than my ones at home. But who cares? That I can work with. The weapons give me an entirely new perspective on the games. I know I have tough opponents left to face, but I am no longer merely prey that runs and hides or takes desperate measures. If Kato broke down the trees right now, I wouldn't flee. I shoot. I find I'm actually anticipating the moment with pleasure. But first, I have to get some strength back into my body. I'm very dehydrated again, and my water supply is dangerously low. The little padding I was able to put on by gorging myself during prep time in the capital is gone, plus several more pounds as well. My hip bones and ribs are almost prominent as I remember that being since those awful months after my father's death. Then there are my wounds to contend with. Burns, cuts, and bruises from smashing into the trees, and 3 jacker stings, which are as sore and swollen as ever. I treat my burns with the ointment and try dabbing a bit on my sting as well, but it has no effect on them. My mother knew a treatment for them, some type of leaf that could draw out the poison, but she seldom had the cost to use it, and I don't remember its name, let alone its appearance. Water first, I think. You can hunt along the way now. It's easy to see the direction I came from the path of destruction my crazed body made through the foliage. So I walk off the other direction, hoping my enemies still lie locked in the surreal world of tracker venom. I can't move too quickly. My joints reject any abrupt motions, but I establish the slow hunter's tread as I use when tracking game. Within a few minutes, I spot a rabbit and make my first kill with the bow and arrow. It's not my usual clean shot through the eye, but I'll take it. After about an hour, I found a stream, shallow but wide, more than sufficient for my needs. The sun is hot and severe, so while I wait for my water to purify, I strip down to my underclothes and wade to the mid-current. I'm filthy from head to toe. I try splashing myself, but eventually just lie down in the water for a few minutes, letting it wash off the soot and blood and skin that has started to peel off of my burns. After rinsing out my clothes and hanging them in a bush to dry, I sit on the bank in the sun for a bit, untangling my hair with my fingers. My appetite returns, and I eat a cracker and a strip of beef. With a handful of moss, I polish the blood from my silver weapons. Refreshed, I treat my burns again, braid back my hair, then dress in the damp clothes, knowing the sun will dry them soon enough. Following the stream again, its current seems the smallest course of action. I'm traveling uphill now, which I prefer, which the source of fresh water not only for myself, but possible game. I busily take out a strange bird that must have been some form of a wild turkey. Anyway, it looks pretty edible to me. By late afternoon, I decide to build a small fire to cook the meat, betting the dust will help conceal the smoke and I can quench the fire by nightfall. I clean the game, making extra care with the bird, but there is nothing alarming about it. Once the feathers are plucked, it's no bigger than a chicken, but it's plump and firm. I just place the first lock over the curls when I hear a twig snap. In one motion, I turn into the sound, bringing the bow and arrow to the shoulder. But there's no one there. No one I can see anyway. Then a tip of a child's boot just peeking out behind the trunk. I relax and grin. She can move through the woods like a shadow. You have to give her that. How else could she have followed me? The words come out of my mouth before this happened. You know, you're not the only one who can form alliances. For a moment, no response. Then one of Rue's eyes adjusts through the trunk. You want me for an ally? Why not? You saved me with those tracker-jackers. You're smart enough to still be alive. And I seem to shake you anyway. She blinks at me, trying to decide. You hungry? I can see her swallow hard, her eyes flicking to the meat. Come on, then. I unmake 2 kills today. Rue tentatively steps into the open. I can fix your strings. Can you? How? She digs in the pack she carries and pulls out a handful of leaves. I'm almost certain they're the ones my mother uses. Where'd you find those? Just around. We all carry them when we work in the orchards. We have a lot of nests there, says Rue. There are a lot here, too. That's right, you're District 11. Agriculture, I say. Orchards, huh? That must be how you can fly around the trees like you got wings. Rue smiles. I landed on one of those few things she can emit pride on. Well, come on then, fix me up. I pluck down on the fire and roll on my pant leg to reveal a sting on my knee. To my surprise, Rue places a handful of leaves in her mouth and begins to chew them. My mother would use other methods, but as not we have a lot of options. After a minute or so, Rue presses the gloppy green wad of chewed leaves and speeds on my knee. Oh, the sound comes out of my mouth before I can stop it. It's as if the leaves are actually leaching the pain right over the sting. Rue gives a giggle. Lucky you had the sense to pull the stingers out, or you'd be a lot worse. Do my neck, do my cheek, I almost beg. Rue stuffs another handful of leaves in my mouth, and soon I'm laughing because the relief is so sweet. I notice the long burn on Rue's forearm. I got something for that. I set aside my weapons and anointed her arm with the burn medicine. You've got good sponsors, she said longingly. Have you got anything yet? She shaked her head. You will, though. Watch. The closer you go to the end, the more people realize how clever you are. I turned the meat over. You weren't joking about wanting me for an ally? She asked. No, I meant it, I say. I can almost hear Hamish groaning as I team up with a wispy child. But I want her, because she's a survivor, and I trust her. Why not admit it? She reminds me of Prim. Okay, she says and holds out her hands. We shake. It's a deal. Of course, this kind of deal can only be temporary, but neither of us mentioned that. Rue tributes a handful of some of the starchy root to the meal. Roasted over the fire, we have a sharp, sweet taste of parsnip. She recognizes the bird, too, some wild thing they call a gosling in her district. She says it's sometimes the flock will wander into the orchard and they get a decent lunch that day. For a while, all conversation stops as we fill our stomachs. The grusling was delicious meat that's so fatty the grit drips down your face when you bite into it. Oh, says Ruth with a sigh. I never had a whole leg to myself before. I'll bet she hasn't. I'll bet the meat hardly ever comes her way. Take the other. I say, really? She asks. Take whatever you want. Now that I got a bow and arrows, I can get more. Plus, I got steers. I can show you how to set them, I say. Rue still looks uncertainly at the leg. Oh, take it, I say, putting the drumstick in her hands. It will only be a few days anyway, and you got the whole we've got the whole bird plus the rabbit. When she gets a hold of it, her appetite wins over, and she takes a huge mouthful. I have thought, in District 11 you had a bit more to eat than us. You know, since you grow the food. I say. Rue's eyes widen. Oh no, we're not allowed to eat their crops. They arrest you or something? They whip you and make everyone else watch, says Rue. The mayor is very strict about it. I can tell by her expression that is not the uncommon of occurrence. A public whipping is a rare thing in District 12, although occasionally one occurs. Technically, Gail and I should be whipped on our deadly basis of poaching in the woods. Well, technically, we could get a whole lot worse. Except all the officials buy our meat. Besides, our mayor, Mage's father, doesn't seem to much taste for such events. Maybe being the least prejudiced, poorest, most ridiculed district in the country has its advantages, such as being largely ignored by the capital as long as we produce our coal quotas. Did you get all the coal you want? Says Rue. No, I answered. Just what we buy and whatever we track on our routes. They feed us a bit extra during harvest, so that people can keep going longer, says Rue. Don't you have to be in school? I asked. Not during harvest. Everyone works then, says Rue. It's interesting hearing about her life. We have so little communication with anyone outside our district. In fact, I wonder if the game makers are blocking out our conversation because even though the information seems harmless, they don't want people to different districts to know about one another. At Ruth's suggestion, we lay out all our food to plan ahead. She seen most of mine, but I add a last couple of crackers and beef strips to the pile. She's gathered quite a collection of roots, nuts, greens, and even some berries. I roll an unfamiliar berry in my fingers. You sure this is safe? Oh yes, we have them back at home. I've been eating them for days, she says, popping a handful in her mouth. I tentatively bite into one, and it's as good as our blackberries. Taking Rue as an ally seems a better choice all the time. We divide our food supplies, so in case we're separated, we'll both be set for a few days. Apart from food, Rue has a small water skin, a homemade slingshot, and an extra pair of socks. She also has a sharp shard of rock she uses as a knife. I know it's not much, she says as if to embarrass, but I had to get this away from the Canopia fast. You did just right, I say. When I spread out my gear, she gasps a little when she sees the sunglasses. How did you get those? She asked. It's in my pack, but they've been useless so far. They don't block the sun and they make it harder to see, I said with a shrug. These aren't for the sun, they're for darkness, exclaims Lou. Sometimes when we harvest through the night, they'll pass out a few pairs to those highest in the trees, where the torchlight doesn't reach. One time, this boy Martin, he tried to keep his pair, hid it in his pants. They killed him on the spot. They killed the boy for taking these? I say. Yes, And everybody knew he was no danger. Martin wasn't right in the head. I mean, he still acted like a 3-year-old. He just wanted the glasses to play with, says Rue. Hearing this makes me feel like District 12 is some sort of safe haven. Of course, people kneel over from starvation all the time, but I can't imagine the peacemakers murdering a simple-minded child. There is a little girl, one of Greasy Say's grandkids, who wanders around the hop. She's not quite right, but she's treated as some sort of pet. People toss her scraps and things. So what do you do these? Says Rue, taking the glasses. They let you see in complete darkness, says Rue. Try them tonight, when the sun goes down. I give Rue some matches, and she makes sure I have plenty of leaves, in case my strings flare up again. We extinguish my fire, and I head upstream until it's almost nightfall. Where do you sleep? In the tree? She nods. It's in just your jacket? She holds up an extra pair of socks. I have these for my hands. I think how cold the nights have been. You can share my sleeping bag if we want. We'll both easy flit. Her eyes lights up. I can see this is more than she dared hope for. We pick a fork high in the tree and settle in the night as the anthem begins to play. There are no deaths today. Rue, I only woke up today. How many nights did I miss? The anthem should block out our words, but I still whisper. I even take the precaution of covering my lips with my hand. I don't want the audience to know what I've been planning to tell her about Petra. Taking a cue from me, she does the same. 2. A girl from District 1 and 4 are dead. There are 10 of us left. Something strange happened. At least, I think it did. It might have been a tracker venom making me imagine things. You know the boy from the district, Petra? I think he saved my life. But he was with the couriers. He's not with them now, he says. I spied on their base at the camp. They made it back before they collapsed in the stingers. But he's not there. Maybe he did save you and had to run. I don't answer. If, in fact, Petra did save me, I'm in his depth again. And this can't be paid back. If he did, it was all probably just some part of that. You know, to make people think he's loving me. Oh, says Ruth thoughtfully, I didn't think that was an act. Of course it is, he says. He worked it out with our mentor. The anthem ends and the sky goes dark. Let's try these glasses. I put on my glasses and slipped them on. Rue wasn't kidding. I can see everything in the leaves on the tree to the skunk strolling in the bushes a good 50 yards away. I could kill it from here if I had the mind to. I could kill anyone. I wonder who else got a pair of these, I said. The couriers have true pairs, but they've got everything down by the lake, Rue says, and they're so strong. We're strong too, just in different ways. You are, you can shoot, but what can I do? You can feed yourself. Can they? I asked. They don't need to. They have all those supplies, says Rue. Say they didn't. Say the supplies were gone. How long could they last? I say, I mean, it's the Hunger Games, right? But Candace, they're not hungry, says Rue. No, they're not. That's the problem. I agree. And for the first time, I have a plan. A plan that isn't motivated by the need for flight and evasion. A offensive plan. I think we're going to have to fix that, Rue.